Hi guys, should we have sympathy for Conservative MPs when they appear on the Wilfred Frost show? Because even they know that they're going to be in for a bit of a grilling. So Andrew Griffith was on to talk about the economy and growth, which he tried to spin as a negative, but thankfully Wilfred was stepping in to call out this BS. Have a listen.
Firstly, your reaction to the GDP data, which was better than expected.
I don't know. It depends what your expectations were. It was a slowdown in the second quarter of the year. What it sort of means, Wilf, is we've had the unemployment figures, we've had the inflation figures, and it's pretty much confirming we're in a period of stagflation. That means the economy is not growing, but cost of living in ordinary people's weekly shop is going up at a much faster rate, about 10 times faster than the economy is growing. So we're all getting poorer. We've seen these huge borrowing figures from the Chancellor. The National Institute for Economic and Social Research has talked about a potential 50 billion black hole. And the one thing you know, particularly given the level of public debt we've already got in this country, we're borrowing just to pay the interest, is you can't tax your way out of this. So it really is a big moment for the Chancellor. We can't have any more.
Okay, before we get to Wilfred's response here, I think it's important to remember when the Conservatives talk about debt increased dramatically under the Conservative administrations. So they can't turn around and now say, hey, debt is suddenly high and this is all down to Rachel Reeves. I'm not here to defend Rachel Reeves, but the Conservatives cannot complain about debt. Now, it's also important to break down the debt because a significant amount of that debt is going to fund public services and private companies, private organizations within the public services. So, for example, when it comes to housing, a lot of money is going to pay private landlords. When it comes to the NHS, a significant amount of the budget is going to pay private companies. So when the Tories talk about more debt, well, you actually have to follow the money and look at where that money is going. And a significant amount of money is going to the private sector. So it's going down the drain. It's not actually getting reinvested in public services.
Of this talk about taxing, aspiration, taxing inheritance, driving more people overseas. It's time for a big reset, and that needs to be about public spending.
I mean, with all due respect, Andrew, that sort of tone to the data would have been fair last month, where in May we did see a decline, but June was much better than expected, strong, you'd even say, at 0.4, 0.5%. April was revised upwards, and if you extrapolate the first half of the year, the annual rate is 2.2%, but the first half of the year is showing the UK growing at the fastest pace in the G7, and stagflation is a bit of a leap. We haven't got sharply rising unemployment. We haven't got elevated unemployment, even if the direction of travel might have changed recently. So, this month's data was a lot better than expected.
So, you need to call out the Tory narrative. The Tory narrative, of course, is generally when we're in power and the economy is growing, it's thanks to us. If the economy is not growing, nothing to do with us. And when anyone else, in this case the Labour Party, are in power and the economy is growing, nothing to do with them. It's not really growth. What about something else? Borrowing. And if the economy is not growing, it's all down to Rachel Reeves and her budget and her policies. Now, when it comes to the economy, I keep saying GDP figures are irrelevant to ordinary people. While GDP growth is good for the economy, it's important that trickles down. I hate to use that term, but that trickles down to ordinary people. It has to have an impact in ordinary people's lives. There's no point having GDP growth of 10% or 20% if ordinary people don't feel it. That's what's important. Now, Andrew Griffith here said, well, we need to focus on public spending. So what he wants to see is austerity. The Conservatives want to go back to austerity. This would, of course, make the situation for ordinary people much worse. We remember what happened when the Conservatives imposed austerity. So they want to go down that road again. They won't say the word austerity, but they say the state is too big. Public services are too expensive. We need to make cuts. We need to force people off benefits and into jobs. We need to cut support for ordinary people. We need to downsize the government. This is what they are trying to sell. they have not learned any lessons. They don't care about the consequences of austerity. They don't feel them. Somebody else does. But they're going to sell this. You can't tax your way to growth. No, growth will be achieved if you invest in public services. But unfortunately, as I mentioned before, a lot of the money going into public services doesn't stay there. It goes to the private sector. So they're making a lot of money out of this at the expense of the taxpayer. But it has to be called out. And well done to Wilfred Frost for doing so. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. And I'll see you in the next video.